All right, what's going on YouTube? This is BoxingWave. So let's talk Kell Brook against Terence Crawford. Now, it's not official yet. All right, it's not official, but it's pretty close to being official. They're further in the negotiations. From the last articles that I read, they're coming pretty close to making this fight happen, which is good. You know, I don't care what platform it's on, probably ESPN. I don't really care. I just want to see a fight. I already said it in previous videos that if you're not a PBC fighter at this point, the only other fight I really want to see with Terence Bud Crawford, with someone that's at 147, is Kell Brook. Okay? Kell Brook, former champion, gave Shawn Porter his first loss. I've always respected Kell Brook since I've had this channel. Always respected him out of, you know, once upon a time, he was undefeated. Thurman was undefeated. Shawn Porter was undefeated. All these guys were undefeated. You know, these were the newer guys that was at the top. This is before Errol Spence came around. This is before Bud moved up to 147. You know, those were the three monsters at the time. Thurman was definitely my favorite. Anyone that's been here from the very beginning know that I was a pretty big Keith Thurman fan. You know, really huge Keith Thurman fan. But Kell Brook, as far as talent and skill, I thought Kell Brook was a little bit above them. I know they never fought, but I said that they ever fought, I give it to Kell Brook. So I've always been a good supporter of Kell Brook. I've even picked Kell Brook to beat Errol Spence at that time. I just thought the move to Kell Brook at that time was just a little too soon for Errol Spence. All right. So anyway, I like the fight. It's not the best fight. Okay, it's not the best fight. Obviously, I want to see Bud against Spence. You know, I would rather see Bud against Manny Pacquiao. You know, I would rather see Bud against a Shawn Porter even. You know, even though Shawn Porter lost to Brook, I like Shawn Porter and his momentum right now more like in the recent last few years, you know. Not so much for Brook. You know, he moved up to 154, had a couple fights up there, but he's not really making noise like he did. You know, I think he kind of took a fall back. He fell back a little bit. I think he has the following that he had, the momentum he had, the credibility he had. I think he's one of those guys that, yeah, we all know who he is and we all respect him, but he's not as fire as he was at one point. At one point, I really believe, and I'm not talking about, I'm just speaking as like just the boxing community. I know out in the UK where he's from, he's probably got a lot more following there. Yeah, they'll go to his fights and support them. But I'm talking about in general, feedback that I get, you know, for what people were saying about Kell Brook. The momentum is not quite what it was before. You know, this fight could have been such a bigger fight at once upon a time. And I think partly of it has to do with Kell Brook and the decisions he's made in his career. His promoters made him in the career. You know, I thought it was a bad idea from jump for him to fight Triple G. I never liked that. I didn't care at the time that Triple G didn't fight anyone as skilled as him. Kell Brook, very skilled fighter, very talented and everything. But moving up to 160 was a bad decision from rip, you know, from jump. And, you know, when Brook, and even though I picked Brook to beat Spence, one excuse I never made was because of what happened to him in the previous fight against Triple G. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just like one of those guys that, listen, if I pick him right, if I pick him wrong, I don't want to make any excuses. You know, when I'm wrong about a prediction, I just call it as I see it. It is what it is. I don't make a bunch of excuses. But a lot of people said that, well, he put for a broken Kell Brook. Spence put for a broken Kell Brook. I don't really believe so. I know that Kell Brook did get damaged in that fight. You know, I know Triple G broke one side of his face. Spence went on to break the other side of his face. But you got to understand, that was a step-up fight for Spence regardless. And he had to go to the UK to fight him. And not only that, but this is all Kell Brook's fault because Spence was the mandatory before that Triple G fight. And no one at that time wanted to fight Errol Spence. You know, I remember that time perfectly. At that time, no one wanted to fight him first. You know, everybody from the Keith Thurmans of the world to the Danny Garcias of the world to the Shawn Porters of the world, no one really wanted to give him his shot. He had to earn his shot. He had to become a mandatory in order to get in position for the fight for that title. And when Spence fought Triple G, he wasn't fighting for that title, but he got broken down and beat up so bad that he still had to come off that fight to defend that title when he should have just defended it in the first place. So it was possibly he would have been better in that Spence fight. I understand that logic. Duh. But that was his choice. That was his decision. And we got what we got. And Spence passed the test. All right. So, not the greatest fight, but I like it. I support it. And I support what Kell Brook has done. He hasn't fought a lot of big names at welterweight, but he did fight Sean, and he did give Sean a loss, okay? And it was a competitive fight, but I also believe that, however way you scored it, I think Brook probably beat Sean Porter better than the other two guys that beat Sean. It wasn't as close. It wasn't as debatable as the Keith Thurman fight, which could have been a draw. Spence, that could have been a draw. Some people say Porter won. Some people say Porter beat Thurman, but not many people said Porter beat Kell Brook, right? But to give Sean Porter some credit, I think Sean Porter has improved since that fight. That fight is a little while ago now, and I think Porter is currently in his prime. I think he's a little better now. And if they were to rematch, I would probably lean a little bit more towards Porter. Because as much as I like this fight, I do understand that Kell Brook is a little bit past his time. And this is why I say I think he's the top as far as a people that is available that's not PBC. Because as far as we know, PBC doesn't even like to acknowledge Bud. All right? It is what it is. That's just the truth. They don't even like to acknowledge Bud at this point. All right, even though he's holding the title. All right, so I like the fight. True test for Bud. Bud needs to do. Terence Crawford needs to focus on him. Try to get the fights, air them. Do whatever you got to do to make the fights. But you got to focus on yourself too, I know that he wants to take these fights, but actually at the end of the day, the PBC has the majority of the top welterweights, and they're going to keep it in-house. It's a possibility that I think it's probably most likely that, or at least more likely that Sean Porter gets a rematch before Bud gets his first shot at Spence. It is what it is. It seems like the WBC keeps putting Danny at the top at the WBC. He could go out and lose, and then he could come back and get another mandatory spot within a couple fights. Same thing with Sean Porter. Sean Porter could lose his title, and then right away he's right back at the #1 spot. The WBC is funny like that. But I don't know what's gonna happen with the WBO strap. No, not the WBO, but the WBA strap, I believe Mr. Manny Pacquiao is holding. Hopefully he drops the belt, because he doesn't seem to be, and I'll get more on that, but he doesn't seem to be interested in fighting any welterweights, any real welterweights at this time, any ranked welterweights. Mikey Garcia might be his next opponent. Mikey said that recently on YouTube, on, I believe, Ellie Setback channel. I think he said that he's going to be fighting Pacquiao next. And then there, all the rumors about Conor McGregor is going to be an opponent for Manny Pacquiao in 2021. So if that's the case, whoever one of those two are, I don't believe neither one of them should be fighting for a title. And I believe that Manny Pacquiao doesn't really have any interest in fighting any of the other top welterweights. He should let a true welterweight, fight for the title. All right, not him not being a true welterweight. He's a welterweight. I'm talking about Conor and Mikey. Pacquiao could do what he wants. I'm not going to sit here and complain about him fighting Conor or Mikey. That's what he wants to do. He can do what he wants. Just don't hold the title hostage. That's my whole thing. All right, so I like the fight with Bud and Kell Brook. Kell Brook is a big fighter. He has a great 1-2. I mean, smooth as you could get when it comes to that 1-2. He moves extremely well. And this is not one of those fighters that I think Bud could just wrestle around, you know. We know Bud is not the biggest welterweight, but he's pretty physically strong, you know. I mean, we seen him manhandle Jeff Horn, who's fighting at 160, and basically bullied Manny Pacquiao. We saw Bud manhandle him, okay, when they were tying up and fighting on the inside. So I like Kell. I think Kell, and then Kell has some, he can crack. He has some punching power, but is not careful. We seen what happened in the fight with the Mean Machine. You know, they didn't count it as a knockdown. But me, even though Bud is my guy and he's my favorite welterweight, he got dropped. You know, he got pissed off by it. You could tell because he started chopping, you know, Mean Machine down right after that. But, you know, Bud got to do what he has to do at the end of the day. And I think Bud, like I said, pick the best fights that's available. You know, in the meantime, try to make something happen with the PBC guys. Keep continuing, keep pushing for that. All right. And if the PBC guys are really interested, like Keith Thurman, guys like him that say that they, you know, they offer certain amounts, these rumors, you can also always offer Terence Bud Crawford. You know, send him a contract. If you guys over there that say his name, you can also send him a contract if you're really that interested in fighting Bud. You don't always have to ask for one. Send him one because he is a champion. All right. I feel like I talk a lot more about the politics more than anything in the actual fight. But even though I like Brook's skill set here, you know, I love his 1-2. You know, I love his timing. All right, I love his strength and his size, and you know, just, you know, he's very clean. I like him. It's just that Bud is a lot more well-rounded than him, you know, and I don't know what kind of approach. If this fight does happen, I'm interested in seeing what type of approach Bud is going to bring here. All right, because when he fought the Mean Machine, he was bringing a lot of pressure and he was taking a lot of punches. You know, and people say that they don't like Bud because he takes so many punches. Well, Bud is at welterweight trying to stop everybody he faces. And he's bringing a lot of pressure. He's not fighting on his back foot. He is coming after these guys. All right, and when you do that, you tend to kind of get hit a lot more often when you're coming forward in the way that he's doing it. Is he going to take that approach? I personally believe that Bud is going to try to box with Kell Brook early in this fight. All right, I don't think he's going to come in wild, trying to walk down Kell Brook. Now, whenever I seen Kell Brook lose a fight, it was because he was getting pressure, not because he was really getting outboxed. We saw how it happened in the Carson Jones fights years back, when Kell Brook pretty much got a gift in that fight. I mean, Carson Jones beat Brook the hell up in that second half of that fight, pressuring him, coming forward. We saw what happened with Triple G, the bigger man, just smothered Brook from the very beginning, the opening bell, hurt him bad in the first round, and stayed on him. You know, Brook was doing some well boxing, countering, and landing some good shots, but they didn't have any effect with Triple G. We already know what kind of chin he got, and then we saw what happened with Brook. Even though Kell Brook, again, having success early, outboxing Spence, I think he was winning in the beginning. Once Spence went into that dog mode, it was just too much for Brook. You know, Brook just couldn't take it. You know, and showed a lot of heart, but Spence got him out of there late. So what is Bud going to do here? Well, I'm assuming that Bud is going to want to try to beat him better than Errol Spence. You know, let's just be real here. You know, Bud is a smart fighter. You know, I seen fights where he was like fighting guys like Victor Postal, you know, whereas he boxed and he fought on his back foot for the majority of that fight. All right, at some point, he started pressing Postal a little bit and he dominated Postal. He did. But I don't know what he's going to do, because I know lately he's been trying to stop everyone. And Brook is going to be tough to stop, because Brook is a naturally bigger guy. So I'm interested in seeing what approach he's going to take. I think he's going to start out as a southpaw. I think he's going to box and see how it goes. I think at some point, 4, 5, 6 rounds in a fight, I think he's going to try to start putting a little pressure on Brook, which could be very, very dangerous. Okay, I know that Errol did it, but Errol's a naturally bigger guy. Errol took a lot of punches in order to get to that stage. And Errol proved that he has a chin. He's proven more than once that he has a chin, and he's able to do it and take the hits in order to dish them back out. I don't know if Bud can do that. I've seen him do it, but not anyone on Kell Brook's level. All right, at a welterweight. As a welterweight. So it'll be very dangerous. I think Bud needs to focus on winning the fight as opposed to trying to win better than Spence. He needs to focus on winning the fight, because this is not an easy fight. It's not an easy fight. Kell Brook is not an easy dude. As far as Kell Brook, how is he going to be coming back down to 147? This is a guy that blows up, walks around over 180, who recently was at 154, that was complaining about being at 147 when he lost to Spence. Now, were they just excuses? I don't know. It might be some truth to it, because he was just fighting at 160, had to come back down to 147. Plus, he was damaged. He was battle damaged. So we got to see, what's going to go on with that. So look, I'm gonna end it here. I'll do a full breakdown whenever they announce the fight. When we know that it's official for real. One thing I hear a lot of people say, people often dismiss Bud and what he did at 140. Even at 135. Being unified at 135, going up, being undisputed at 140. Now coming at 147, people say he only beat Jeff Horn. Most of it are really big Spence supporters that say this. Okay? Look, I understand you can just make the argument, well, Spence can beat everybody that Bud beat. Okay, cool. But Bud is at 135 and 140. Spence was not. All right? Spence hasn't won any titles in any other division. He's not a naturally smaller guy, but moved his way up throughout his career. All right. What I will say is Spence fought better opposition earlier. Okay. I think he came into the sport as a pro better, but Bud accomplished him not. Bud won titles in 3 different divisions. Bud fought good fighters at 140. He fought the best fighters at 140 at that time. Okay? You can only fight who's available at that time, and he beat the best guys at 140. People that just wanted to stick to, he hasn't fought anybody but Gamboa, and Gamboa was small. Shit like that is ridiculous. Just look at Victor Postal. Right? We knew Danny did his thing at 140 while he was there. He knocked out Amir Khan. He beat Matisse. He beat Matisse, who, wasn't undefeated when he beat him. But he was very dangerous coming off of that knockout win against Lamont Peterson. Look what Bud does to the fighters he fought. And the other fighters that fought him. Compare those two. Look at Victor Postal. Victor Postal knocked out Matisse. Or stopped him. Right? Look at Victor Postal's fight with Jose Ramirez recently. Was anybody impressed with Ramirez's performance that night? No. Even if you thought he won, were you impressed? And he was fighting a much older Victor Postal. Okay? Look at Josh Taylor's performance against Victor Poso. Great fight. Very competitive. But it was a great fight because it was competitive. Bud's fight wasn't competitive. It wasn't competitive. It was okay. Victor Poso had his moments, I guess. But did Bud have any trouble beating him? No. Josh Taylor did. Ramirez almost lost in my eyes. That fight was debatable. You know? We saw what happened with Matisse. Everybody talks about Danny Garcia and Matisse at 140. But when Matisse was in there with this guy, he didn't look too good. Let's talk about Jeff Horn. Everybody likes to dismiss that too. Regardless if you think Pacquiao won against Jeff Horn or not, how did Pacquiao look against... excuse me. How did Pacquiao look against Jeff Horn? Even if you think Pacquiao won and got robbed, how did he look against Jeff Horn compared to Bud, who fought him in his very next fight? There's a reason why Manny Pacquiao did not fight Terence Crawford. There's a reason why. Okay? So, look, you guys want to make it seem like this guy did nothing. You know, look at Lamont Peterson against Felix Diaz. Look at that fight. That's another fight that Peterson got to give. When Diaz is in there with Crawford, even me, people like me giving Diaz props. I'm like, oh man, this might be a dangerous fight for Crawford. Crawford makes it look easy again. Crawford will always make the fights look easy. But you guys try to discredit him and say that he didn't fight anybody. He didn't fight anybody. You know, he fought Gamboa at 135. And Gamboa was a smaller guy. Well, many, many years later, Tank Davis fights Gamboa. An injured, one-legged Gamboa. And he's struggling. And damn near goes the distance with him. So let's start. Come on, guys. Like, I know. Let's start using a little logic here. You know, I know there's a lot of Spence haters, and I know there's a lot of Bud haters out here. I happen to like both. I'm a little bit more of a Terence Crawford fan because he's probably my favorite active boxer today. But I like Spence a lot too. You're allowed to like two different fighters. I know that Bud is on the opposite side of the street, and a lot of PBC fans feel like he signed with the enemy. That's just how people think. Same thing with Bud being over here. A lot of people hate the PBC and everything they do. They'll make, there's YouTubers in here that make videos all day about the PBC. Just bashing the PBC every day. All right. There are issues that I have with both. I've had issues with ESPN or Bob Arum and Top Rank. I've had issues with the PBC. But let's be real. Let's just not try to make it seem like this guy didn't accomplish anything or he didn't fight anyone. Because before Bud fought Jeff Horn, when Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao, everybody was calling out Jeff Horn, including the other top welterweights. All right, everybody was saying Bud needs to come up and win a title, which he did. And now it's not good enough. So which one is it? The guy accomplished a whole lot. All right? Do I want him to fight Porter, Spence, Pacquiao? I care about Thurman, but not that much. I care about Garcia. That's cool, but not that much. I would love to see the fights, though. They're cool. I'm cool with Kell Brook. I like the fight. I like the fight better than any other fights at welterweight that Bud has had. But let's not try to make it seem like he didn't accomplish anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't even do anything at welterweight. Or he hasn't fought anyone outside of Gamboa. When I hear that, I'm like, so all of those guys he fought meant nothing to you guys. That's ridiculous. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. Pretty long video, but I wanted to speak on a lot of things, and I know I recently made a video about Spence and Garcia, which is cool. I'm cool with that fight as well, especially because Spence is coming out of injury and everything like that. I mean, coming off of the car accident and everything. I'm cool with that fight. It's not a bad fight, but I just wouldn't pay for it because outside of Spence recently being in the accident, I don't care. I personally don't care. I don't care about the fight like that. I don't care for the fight like that because Garcia, I know he had a competitive fight with Porter and Thurman. That's cool. That's cool. But I personally don't care for it. I think Spence has proven to me that he's better than a Garcia based on who he's beaten and how he's won the fights. I don't care as much. It's not bad. But there's better fights that are not pay-per-view. And I know Spence done pay-per-view, and that's cool. I thought the Sean Porter, I bought that fight. I didn't think Mikey was worth a pay-per-view. But I understand the business of that. Alright? Anyway, let me get out of here, man. I don't want to talk too long. I already have. Peace.